Welcome, my friends, to the darkest corners. Today we're going to South America to an orphanage. Hope you enjoy the story, and if you do, please like, subscribe, and if you don't like, please dislike. And if that hype button pops up, hit the hype button. All these things help the channel grow. Thank you. Have a great week. The demonic orphanage that shouldn't exist. It was never supposed to be found. The locals had a rule: don't go past the broken iron gate. If you did, you wouldn't come back the same, or you wouldn't come back at all. I didn't believe any of that when I first heard the story, but after what happened, I wish I had the assignment. I'm an investigative journalist who specializes in abandoned places and unsolved stories across the Americas, ghost towns, closed prisons, forgotten hospitals. But the email I received last October was different. It came from someone who didn't give their name, just a sentence. If you want the truth about what happened to the missing children of San Cordoba, go to the orphanage. Attached was a photo, an old Spanish colonial building hidden deep in jungle mountains somewhere in Central America. The place was called Santa Lucia Orphanage, closed in 1973 after a series of unexplained deaths. The official report blamed disease, but the local story said something else. They said the orphanage was feeding something beneath the building, something that wanted children. The town that won't talk. 3 days later, I arrived in the nearest town. San Cordoba was small, quiet, and surrounded by thick jungle and mist-covered mountains. The kind of place where everyone knows everyone, and everyone knows the same secrets. I showed the photo of the orphanage to a bartender. His expression changed immediately. He slid the photo back across the table. "Where did you get that?" "Online archives," I lied. He shook his head slowly. "You shouldn't go there." "Why?" He leaned closer. "Because the children never left." I laughed awkwardly. "Ghost stories?" He didn't smile. "No." Then he said something that stuck with me. "Something still lives there." The road to Santa Lucia. The orphanage was about 9 miles outside town, hidden in the jungle hills. No paved road, just a narrow dirt path swallowed by vegetation. By the time I reached the old iron gate, the sun was already dropping behind the mountains. The gate hung crooked on its hinges. Rust had eaten through most of the metal. A wooden sign barely clung to the fence. The words were faded, but I could still read them. Santa Lucia Children's Home. Someone had scratched something underneath. 3 words. God abandoned us. The building. The orphanage itself was massive, 3 stories tall. Spanish-style arches, broken windows staring out like empty eye sockets. The jungle had begun reclaiming everything. Roots grew through the stone walls. Vines hung from the balconies like ropes, and the front doors were wide open, like the building was waiting for someone to enter. I stepped inside. The temperature dropped immediately. Inside, the air smelled like mold, rotting wood, and something metallic, like blood. The children's drawings. The main hallway was filled with peeling wallpaper and long rows of doors. Most of the rooms were dormitories. Small iron beds lined the walls. But what caught my attention were the drawings, hundreds of them. Crayon pictures taped to the walls, childlike scribbles of houses, families, and something else, a black figure with horns. In nearly every drawing, standing behind the children, watching them. Some drawings showed the figure inside the orphanage. Others showed it coming from beneath the floor. One drawing made my stomach drop. It shows children standing in a circle around a trapdoor, the basement. I found the trapdoor in the dining hall. It was hidden under a heavy wooden table. Chains once locked it shut, but they had rusted through decades ago. When I lifted the door, a wave of cold air rushed up from the darkness. The smell was worse now. Rot. Something dead. I turned on my flashlight and climbed down. The stairs creaked under my weight, and the deeper I went, the quieter the world became. No jungle sounds, no insects, nothing. Just silence, the room of names. At the bottom of the stairs was a large stone chamber. The walls were covered in writing. Hundreds of names carved into the rock. Children's names. Some were scratched out violently. Others had strange symbols carved beside them. Pentagrams, crosses, something older. Then I noticed something chilling. At the end of the room was a list. Names written in fresh paint, not carved, painted. There were 5 names. The last one had today's date next to it. The whispering. That's when I heard it. At first I thought it was wind, but then I realized what it really was. Children's voices, whispering, all around me, not loud, just barely audible. Like dozens of kids talking behind thin walls. Then one voice became clear. A little girl. Please help us. My heart started racing. Hello? I said, into the darkness. The whispering stopped. Complete silence. Then something else happened. Footsteps running all around the basement. But I couldn't see anyone. The old records. In a back office, I found a pile of moldy documents. Most were destroyed by time, but one journal survived. It belonged to Father Gabriel Esteban, the priest who ran the orphanage. The final entries were disturbing. He wrote about the thing in the earth, about how the orphanage was built over an ancient ceremonial site used by pre-colonial tribes, a place where people once offered sacrifices to a demon they believed lived underground. At first, the priest dismissed it as superstition, until the children began to change. He wrote, they speak to someone in the basement. They draw the same creature. They say he promises them a family. Then came the final entry, written shakily. It wants more children. The locked room. While exploring the second floor, I found a door that was different from the others. It had thick metal bars across it, and chains, as if someone had tried very hard to keep something inside. The chains had been broken. The door hung slightly open. Inside the room, every wall was covered in writing. But it wasn't words, just one phrase, written hundreds of times, in different handwriting. He is coming. In the center of the room sat a wooden chair, and on the chair was a child-sized skeleton, still wearing an orphan uniform. But the skull was wrong. The jaw had been stretched unnaturally wide, as if something had forced its way out of the child's mouth, the tunnel. Behind the skeleton's chair was a hole in the wall, a tunnel dug through the earth. Too smooth to be natural, too deep to see the end. And inside the tunnel, I heard breathing, slow, heavy. Something was alive down there. Then I heard the same little girl's voice again, right behind me. You shouldn't be here. I spun around, and for the first time, I saw one of them, the children. She looked about 10 years old, pale, wearing a faded orphan uniform. Her eyes were completely black. Behind her, more children stepped into the hallway, maybe 20 of them, all silent, all staring. Then they all spoke at the same time. He's waking up. The floor beneath us trembled slightly. Dust fell from the ceiling, and from deep inside the tunnel, something moved, something massive, Something ancient. The thing below. A sound came from the tunnel, like bones grinding together. Then a shape began crawling toward the opening, too big for the tunnel, yet forcing its way through. Long black limbs, skin stretched tight over something skeletal, and a head with horns scraping the ceiling. The children all turned toward it, like they were greeting someone they loved. One of them whispered, "Father is hungry." The creature's eyes opened, glowing faintly red, and they locked onto me. The escape. Every instinct in my body screamed to run. I sprinted down the hallway. The children didn't chase me. They just watched, smiling, as if they knew something I didn't. Behind me, the creature crawled out of the tunnel, its body scraping against the walls, its limbs snapping furniture like toothpicks. The entire building shook as it moved. I reached the staircase and ran down toward the front entrance. The sound of claws dragging across stone followed me, closer, closer. Then right as I reached the door, something whispered directly into my ear. "You were invited." The truth. I made it outside and ran all the way back to my truck. I didn't stop driving until sunrise. But the story doesn't end there, because when I reviewed the footage from my camera later, I noticed something that still keeps me awake at night. Remember the list of names painted on the basement wall? The one with 5 names? The last name had today's date. But when I paused the video, I saw the name clearly. It was mine, the final discovery. 2 weeks after my investigation, San Cordoba made the news. The orphanage burned down, completely destroyed. Authorities said lightning caused the fire. But the strangest part, when they searched the ruins, they found no remains, no bones, no bodies, nothing. Not even the skeleton in the locked room. But the workers did report one strange thing. While clearing the rubble, they uncovered a stone staircase leading down, much deeper than the orphanage basement. The staircase ended at a sealed stone door, and carved into the door were 3 words, the same ones scratched onto the gate. God abandoned us. The last thing I heard. I thought it was over. I thought whatever lived beneath Santa Lucia was buried forever. Until last night. At exactly 3:03 a.m., my phone rang. The number was unknown. When I answered, I didn't hear an adult voice. I heard a child whispering, "Father is still hungry." Then the line went dead. But before it disconnected, I heard something else, heavy breathing and scratching, like claws on stone. And sometimes late at night, when everything in my house is silent, I swear I can hear children whispering from somewhere beneath the floor.